What's up, Planeswalkers? How you doing? How you doing? Welcome back to your favorite moose telling you about all the new wonderful cards from Duskmourn. Today we're talking about
The Lord of Pain. The Lord of Pain.
is a Rakdos 5/5 human assassin that says your opponents can't gain life. That's pretty good, but here's where it gets fun. Whenever a player casts their first spell each turn, choose another target player.
The Lord of Pain.
Deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to the chosen player. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a lot of fun. Our commander can turn the game into a chaotic match where players bring out their biggest spells in hopes of killing each other. Or he gets blown up first thing and we cry. But that sounds a lot less fun, and we can prepare for that later. So our strategy today is to bring the hurt to the table with group slug cards and damage doublers, and maybe we stick around long enough to squeak out a win. But once we get into the list, we're really not squeaking out wins, but more like slamming a hammer down on our opponents. But before I do that, we need to talk about the companion I added to the deck list. That's right, this is an Obosh the Prey Piercer deck, meaning we do have some restrictions when making the deck list, but if anything, I think the deck turned out cooler for it. And dare I say, stronger. Okay, let's not cut around the fat here. We're going straight into the fun stuff. The mass damage pieces. These are cards that hurt everyone or do lots of damage all at once. First off, we have Prisoner's Dilemma. This card can be 12 damage, and depending on the table you're playing at, it can be almost guaranteed 12 damage to a few players. Either way, voting cards are fun, and this card keeps in line with our theme. Heartless Hitasugu can narrow everyone's life total fast, and this card can combo with a few of our other damage doublers. Brash Taunter might seem strange for mass damage, but we're playing some hefty board wipes that make this card hit for 12 or even 20 damage in a go. Stuffy Doll is in our deck for the same reason, only it's restricted to one player. Screaming Nemesis is yet another creature that's similar to the last few we've covered, but this time it doesn't have Indestructible, which makes it way worse. However, its ability to shut off life gain is useful, as we can't always guarantee our commander will stick on the field. Gary the Merchant from Asphodel is a must-have in any burn deck, and since our commander says opponents can't gain life, nothing is stopping us from padding our own life total. Chandra's Ignition can be used to wipe the board while burning our opponents. Terror the Peak can end games fast, and it's no different in this deck. We're using this card along with Malignus and a damage doubler to take someone out of the game. Sulfuric Vortex pings everyone on their respective upkeeps, and one thing to keep in mind is this card will prevent us from gaining life, so be aware of that when playing it. Everlasting Torment also stops life gain and makes creatures deal damage as though they had Wither, which is brutal, but the reason it's in our mass damage category is because fogs are shut off thanks to this card, so that means more damage will get through since nothing can prevent that damage. Scytheclaw Raptor is a cheap body that annoys decks trying to game the system by playing spells on other people's turns. This card is unassuming at first, but I've witnessed firsthand the strength of it against certain storm and control lists. Master of Cruelties can be very annoying to a lot of players, but when you're playing a deck like this, you're not trying to make friends. This card can be used to keep an opponent permanently chump blocking, since going to 1 life is a death sentence versus our deck. Captive Audience works in a similar way because if the opponent doesn't get rid of it, the moment that they go to 4 life, nearly any spell we play or even our opponent's play will kill them with our commander. Moving on, we have our card draw package so that we don't burn up all our resources. We'll be playing Phyrexian Arena for an extra card. Florian, Voldaren Scion lets us dig equal to the amount of damage we've dealt to our opponents. This is great for finding combo pieces. Blood Pack, since we can't play even cost Sign and Blood. Either way though, we need the extra cards. Faithless Looting for cheap and recurable card draw. Reforge the Soul to throw away any bad hands we might have and get a new one. Theater of Horrors is repeatable card advantage, but we do need to damage our opponents to get access to the cards, but in this deck that shouldn't be a problem. Valakut Exploration is similar card advantage, but this time if we don't use the cards, we get even more damage out of the deal. Necropotence is our ultimate card draw engine, and this is a great time to pick one up. Another big part of our deck is the damage doublers or increasers. These cards give us some simple one-shot combos or a lot of value from our mass or small ping damage. Roughly 2/3 of our deck get benefits from playing these cards. First off, we have Gratuitous Violence, Dictate of the Twin Gods, and Angarot's Marauders as simple damage doublers that all have small variations that don't matter too much as we play them all for the same reason. The Roller Crusher Ride is another doubler, but we have to jump through some hoops called Delirium first, and we can use this to board wipe as well. Warlock class is similar in the hoops department, but the good news is that this card can combo kill people a lot easier than some of our other doublers. Another nice benefit is that in order to get the pseudo damage doubling effect, we get some value on the way to it, like the pinging and card advantage. Mechanized Warfare isn't a doubler, but it does add extra damage to most of our cards. the red ones mainly. Since we have a pretty big ping package, this card does put in a lot of work. Orwaki, the younger, also fits into the ping package, but like Mechanized Warfare, this card just generally raises our damage. Last but not least, especially seeing as we shape the deck around it, Obosh the Prey Piercer is our last doubler, but what's great about this card is that we don't have to draw it and it's always available for us to throw out. Since the cat's out of the bag, let's talk about the Death by 1,000 Cuts or ping package of the deck. These are cards meant to slowly drain our opponents, often doing 1 or 2 damage at a time. Keterik Parasite is a simple pinger that cares about our opponents drawing cards, which is always a sure bet in a game of Commander. Mind Spark is a way for us to punish control players, making it the most valuable card in the deck. Tibalt Rakish Instigator is another way to shut off life gain. And if you're wondering why I'm throwing so much anti-life gain in the deck, it's one strategy that can completely hose our strategy if we don't have our commander out. Anyways, Tibalt also makes us some blockers that can ping people or creatures. Underworld Dreams is another way to punish card draw, making it pretty reliable. Looted Bonds is really brutal against a lot of landfall decks, but only if we have the anti-life gain card out, because let's face it, landfall decks always seem to gain a lot of life, but if we do, then this card is really punishing the cycling of their lands from their graveyard. Also, it's worth mentioning that the life gain side of this card is nice for us. For removal, we're running Shriek Maul since it fits our deck's constraints and it's reanimatable. Kolaghan's Command to deal with artifacts, or we could always use one of the other modes since this card is still great in most situations. Bedevil also has some options when it comes to what we can remove. Chaos Warp, so we can actually remove anything from the game, provided you are not the unluckiest person at the table. Let me know if that's happened to you. Vandalbast for Mass Artifact Hate. Toxic Deluge for a cheap board wipe that can get rid of indestructible creatures. Star of Extinction for creatures and planeswalkers, and it works with our Stuffy Doll effects. This next section I'll call our Wither package and tutors and other things that don't deserve their own section. So I guess we'll just call it Value Pile for now. So for our tutors, we're playing Vampiric Tutor, Gamble, and Grim Tutor, which all function differently, but they're used for the same thing, and that's finding combo pieces. Finally, we can talk about Doomsday, which is a first for our channel, and yes, I'll cover this card and its combo at the end of the video, but just know this card basically functions as a tutor that also sets up a win for the game. We also have Flamekin Harbinger, since we have lots of elementals in our deck, elementals like Malignus, which are huge, granted life totals are still high. Corrosive Mentor gives Wither to most of our creatures, making them really annoying to block. Hopefully that'll mean that we can get some more damage onto people. Flamekin Herald gives us a little more value out of our commander, which already has a really large target on its back. Necroskitter to let us start stealing creatures we kill with our Wither creatures. Colarath Knight is really good versus any decks with counter synergies, giving us some protection and incentivizing players to not block or attack us if we have creatures up with Wither. Okay, so now we can talk about the ramp, which is how we're going to afford all these very expensive cards. Jazika's Will is useful for both card advantage and mana if we have our commander out. Professional Facebreaker can make us some treasures, and later in the game, we can sack our unused treasures to look for more cards. Dark Ritual, Seething Song, and Mana Geyser allow us to win with a few combos. Descent into Avernus does everything we want, ping people, and make treasures. I found that since your opponents also get the treasures out of the deal, they're less willing to remove Descent. Curse of Opulence is a great early play to get any heat off of you and start getting life totals down. Black Market can make a lot of mana provided it's seen enough things die. Cursed Mirror has a lot of crazy stuff that it can copy when it enters, and then it's just a regular mana rock afterwards. My Timmy inclusion actually comes into the ramp section. That's going to be Revels and Riches. It's technically an alt win con, but in this case we can get a lot of treasure out of it. For the mana base, consider playing Mountains and Swamps, but if you want something more involved, then help yourself to the mana base in the deck list found in the description of this video. My recommended land is Cabal Coffers and Orborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, since this deck is very mana hungry. For the combo section, I'll show you how to win by using Doomsday. Unlike previous videos, I need to explain how Doomsday combos work before showing you. You see, Doomsday in simple terms lets us stack our deck the way we need to win. Fair warning here, you need a lot to go right for this to work. And most of the time the table gets a go around before you can even draw those cards you've arranged. So keep in mind, unlike most combos, you don't win just out of the blue. The good news is that you only need one card to get into winning spot, and that's Doomsday. That said, you'll still need mana to play the cards that you arranged as well, so let me now show you how Doomsday wins work. In this example, we'll need 4 extra cards in hand. That won't always be the case, and it greatly depends on what card draw source you grab. To start, we'll cast and resolve Doomsday. Our library now has 5 cards in it. In this case, we grab Mana Geyser, Star of Extinction, Warlock Class, Faithless Looting, and Brash Taunter. We then stack our deck so that the first card we draw is Faithless Looting, and right under it is Mana Geyser. The rest of the cards don't really matter. We then cast Faithless Looting and get the Mana Geyser and Warlock Class to hand. If we need to, we can now cast Mana Geyser to make enough mana to play all of our cards and level up Warlock class. We recast Faithless Looting from our graveyard and put our library into our hands. We can then cast Brash Taunter and Warlock class, fully level up Warlock class, and then cast our Star of Extinction to hit the table for 40 damage, hopefully winning the game. Okay, that's gonna do it for my
Lord of Pain
deck. Let me know how I did, or tell me about your favorite food in the comments below. Subscribe to see more unhinged deck lists in the future, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.